Good day, all learners. Good day. Yes, welcome again to yet another lesson. It's time for English home language for grade 9. I welcome everyone who is here. Let us quickly take the register. Let us see who is with us today. Yes, it is a Friday and it's going to be a good Friday for all of us. I hope you are all one good way to start your Friday. Without a waste of time, let's get on with it. We are continuing with, we did 2 of them and we will continue with the others during this lesson today. So in today's lesson, we will be more focused on the adverbs of place as well as the adverbs of frequency. Isn't that interesting to do on a Friday? Yeah, I guess it is. So yes, let's continue. So this is how the lesson of the day looks like. Verbs, then the types of adverbs, then we will zone in as we focus on the adverbs of place as well as the adverbs of frequency. So this is very, very interesting things, and may you please pay attention and you realize that if you understand these things, then you know it will really eliminate so many misunderstandings. You will see that. Just stick with me. Yes. Remember that if you have any question, you are welcome to raise your hand, or you can text me in the chat with your questions and I will answer them. Okay, the introduction. As I have said yesterday, sometimes we need to know more about what happened, and it is adverbs which help us with that, because adverbs tell us more about a verb. Okay, we did that in the previous lesson, so we won't dwell on it. My favorite quote, which you will find to be true even after the end of this lesson, is that knowledge is power. You will realize that when you know and understand these adverbs and how they work, you will see that you will really get to know some things that are very easy to overlook if you didn't know. So remember yesterday we said that adverbs are words that describe how an action was performed. For example, you speak nicely. So nicely there becomes our adverb, which tells us how you speak. Okay. Then adverbs are words or phrases that give us more information about verbs. Yes, I did say that. And that adverbs give us more information about adjectives and other adverbs. Let's do a quick rundown on the different types of adverbs. Is the adverbs of place, adverbs of frequency, adverbs of manner, adverbs of degree, adverbs of time, and adverbs of reason. Let us quickly go through what they all do, and then we will zone in into the adverbs of place and the adverbs of frequency, which are part of the lesson of today. So it's going to be a very loaded lesson. Number one, the adverbs of place, they describe where something happens or where something is done. Adverbs of frequency describes how often something is done. The adverbs of manner describe how or the manner that something is done. Okay. Number four, adverbs of degree, they describe the extent something is done. The adverbs of time, they describe when something is done. You remember we did that yesterday. And the adverbs of reason, they describe the reason why something is done. Okay, so we can put it this way to make things easier for us. The adverbs of place, it asks the question where, and it answers the where question. The adverbs of frequency, it answers the how often question. The adverbs of manner answers the question how. The adverbs of degree answers the question to what extent. The adverbs of time answer the question when or how long. And the adverbs of reason answer the question why. Okay, so these are the 6 adverbs in a nutshell. That is what they do, and that is why they are as significant as they are. Okay, so remember, adverbs of time, it tells us when an action happened, for how long it happened, as well as how often it happened. Okay, so this was yesterday's things, adverbs of time and adverbs of manner. Now let us start with what today is all about, which is the adverbs of place. Okay, so is there any question about the adverbs of time and the adverbs of manner, the ones that which we did in the previous lesson yesterday? Okay, so there is no question about that. So let us continue. Let us continue. Adverbs of place. An adverb of place describes where something is done. Okay. So yes, that is what an adverb of place does. It describes to us where something is done. So what does this mean? Remember, we said that an adverb is a word that tells us more about a verb. So what that means is that with an adverb of place, it tells us about where that verb happens or where that verb is done. Okay, so it tells us about the place where the action verb happens. That is what an adverb of place does. Okay, when we say that, it describes where something is done. Then an adverb of place describes where an action happens. Yes, that is what I just said. So that is one way of putting it. That is another way of putting it. An adverb of place serves to answer the question where. Okay, so an adverb of place serves to answer the question where. Okay, so that is something that we should remember, that that every time where you see an adverb of place used, then every time where you see an adverb of place used, then you know that it is used to answer the question where. Okay, so what that does is that it really helps us to understand more about the whereabouts or the place where an action has taken place, where an event takes place, or where something is done. So that is how adverbs of place work. Then as we continue, adverbs of place are usually placed after the main verb in a sentence or after the object. You all understand that? Let's read that again. Adverbs of place are usually placed after the main verb in a sentence or after the object. Okay, there's an example there. I looked for the keys everywhere. So in this sentence, you realize that the subject is I, the object is the keys. So you realize that the adverb of place, it is placed after the object. What is the object here? The object is keys. Okay, so if we read this again, we will have, I looked for the keys. Can you imagine if someone says to you, I looked for the keys? The thing is that you will want to ask the person where. Okay, and then they can tell you that I looked for the keys everywhere. So there I have underlined everywhere to show that everywhere is our adverb of place. Okay, so everywhere is the place where I looked. Okay, everywhere it is the place where I was looking. Everywhere is the place where I looked. Therefore, everywhere becomes our adverb of place. Why? Because it tells us where the action of looking was done. Any question on that? Okay. Second example. I saw her look away. I saw her look away. So you can say I saw her. I saw her look, and I will be confused. What do you mean? Then you can answer and say, I saw her look away. So you realize that the word away here, it is the place, it is the position, it is an adverb of place. Why? Because it tells us where the looking was done. Okay, so we know that her or she was looking away. So this away here, it shows us the place at which this person here was looking. Next example, the children were playing nearby. So if I say to you, the children were playing, you will want to know where they were playing. So you'll ask me where, then I can say the children were playing nearby. Okay, so if I say the children were playing, you'll ask me where, and the answer will be nearby. The answer would be nearby, and then if the answer being nearby like this, what will it mean? So then, this will mean that this nearby is our adverb of place. Therefore, we can say it in full to say the children were playing nearby. So we can say the children were playing nearby. Nearby is the place where the children were playing. Nearby, it is the place where this action of children playing happened or was done. We all understand that? Okay. Next example. They took all the furniture outside. They took all the furniture outside. So if you go home and then you find your house to be empty, chances are that you will ask about the furniture, and then they will say to you, they took all the furniture. So if they say that, then you will ask, where did they take the furniture? Then they can say outside. Then you will know that outside becomes our adverb of place because it tells us about where they took all the furniture. So this sentence will be more understandable if we say they took all the furniture outside. They took all the furniture outside. So outside there functions as our adverb of place. Then we still have more examples of adverbs of place. Here are the words which are adverbs of place. Everywhere, up, down. I know you can think of examples. Okay, for everywhere we can say I looked everywhere. Then up, okay, you can say I put your phone up there. Okay, so up become our adverb of place. Down means, okay, down is also our adverb of place. So down, around, for example, I saw the campus sitting around the fire. So it means that the sitting that they did was around the fire. So it tells us about where they were doing the sitting. So they were doing the sitting around the fire. Away, back, out, home, in, on. So all these words here are some of the examples of the adverbs of place. You will realize that every time when you see these words in a sentence, every time when you see these words in a sentence, you will realize that these words, they tell you about a place, or they tell you about where something happens. They tell you about where a verb takes place. They talk about where the action verb is taking place. So these are our adverbs of place. Okay, so these are our adverbs of place. Then we still have more. Wow. Okay, so more examples of the adverbs of place here. Okay, so like if you can say to a child, sit here. So here becomes the adverbs of place, because here it describes where the sitting should take place. Mhm. Then we have there. So if I say go there, then there becomes our adverbs of place, because it tells us about where you should be going. It tells us about where the verb go happens. And then we come again, we have about. So about about is an adverbs of place. You can really think of it, okay, I can think of it like in the context of science, okay, let's say maybe you have let us say that you have a spinning top, okay? So if you spin the spinning top, you can say that the spinning top is revolving about its tip, okay? So that about, it tells you about the place that which the spinning top is spinning. Another example could be with the Earth, our planet Earth. You can say that the Earth, the Earth, the Earth rotates around the sun about its axis. So yes, so then the earth then revolves around its axis. So then you can really play with your imagination and think of the earth being like a ball, and then in the middle of that ball there is this very long stick that which the ball is really revolving around. Okay, so yes, that is the reason why about becomes an adverb of place. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it is from my example. And yes, when you think about everything which revolves around something, or anything that which spins around or rotates, then you can use the word about to show that to show the position of that item spinning around. And then we have across. Across, yes, is also an adverb of place. You can say, yes, across. I saw him across the street. So that across is an adverb of place, which tells us where you have seen whoever you've seen. Okay, across the street. Okay, along is also an adverb of place. Along. Yes. Then we have by. Yes, by is also an adverb of place, because you can say, I have put I have put your phone by the kitchen counter. So by saying by, then I am really referring to you to some extent, the place or the position for you to find your phone. Then we have behind. Yes, sit behind me. You sit behind your chair. So yes, that is also an adverb of place. Then we have down, over. Yes, sit down. Sit down, stand over there. So over becomes an adverb of place. It tells us where to stand. Then we also have round, as well as through, under, and up. So all these are other examples of adverbs of place. Okay, remember what you need to know from what you need to know and what you need to realize from these examples is that every time you see these words being used in a sentence, you should know that these words, which are the adverbs of place, they are telling us about where or the place where an action has been taken, where or the place where something happens. So that is what should be coming to mind. Okay, so yes, that is how it is. That is how it is. So those were the examples of the adverbs of time. It's many of them. I know that you may be feeling overwhelmed to try to learn or memorize all of them. But one thing I can say to you is that one thing I can say to you is this. You all you need to know is to know, well, all you need to know about the adverbs of place is that they tell us about where an action happens. If you can understand that, then I tell you that even if I can bring to you an example of a sentence that has an adverb of place you haven't seen before, chances are that you will be able to figure it out because you understand that adverbs of place, they show us, they tell us where an action happens. Other adverbs of place end with the suffix words and they describe movement in a particular direction. There are several examples for this one. We have backwards, forwards, downwards, upwards, inwards, outwards, northwards, southwards, eastwards, westwards, homewards, onwards. Okay, so all these adverbs of place which end with the suffix words, they describe the movement which happens in a particular direction. Okay, an example, the red car was moving backwards. So this shows you not this adverbs of place with the suffix was, they show us the direction at which something happens. So in my first example, the red car was moving backwards. It means that the moving of this red car is backwards. Okay, so meaning that the red car was moving backwards. So backwards, it is the direction at which the car is moving. So everyone can then understand where the car is moving. So we know here that the red car was moving backwards. And then we come again to the next one. He threw the rock off the mountain and it rolled downwards. Okay, so from here we also get to know and understand the direction at which the rock was moving, the rock was rolling. So we know that since the rock was through off the mountain, was rolling downwards. Okay, then next we come to the adverbs of frequency. We are done with the adverbs of place. I told you it is a mouthful. So we are done with it. We are done with it. Let us move on now to the next section, to the next type of an adverb, which is the adverb of frequency. So an adverb of frequency describes how often something is done. Okay, so how often something is done, that is the adverbs of frequency. Do you remember in mathematics where you do data handling, where you count how many of, okay, let me give this example. Well, let's say maybe you are given fruits and then you have to count how many apples are there, bananas, oranges, grapefruit, lemon, whatever 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 fruits may be there. And then you will be given a table, and then in that table there is this column where it says frequency. So you realize that in that frequency, that is where you write the number of a specific number of the fruit. So if maybe you were given 5 apples, so under frequency you are going to write 5 to show that of all these fruits, 5 of them are apples. So you can really think of it that way. So from that 5 apple, another thing that it means is that you could count apples 5 times. Okay, all right. So with the adverbs of frequency, the adverb then describes how often something is done. Okay, so an adverb of frequency also serves to answer the question how often or how frequently. So these are the questions that an adverb of frequency tends to answer. An adverb of frequency serves to answer the following question: how often, or how frequently. So these are the questions that an adverb of frequency will answer. Then we have two types of adverbs of frequencies. So we have one type which we call the definite frequency. So what this means is that these adverbs of frequency, they tell us exactly how often something happens, okay? It tells us exactly how often something happens. Here are some examples: once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Every second, every minute, twice a year. Hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So you realize that with these adverbs of frequency, with these definite adverbs of definite frequency, or with these adverbs of frequency which tell us exactly how often something happens, then you can be able to calculate how often something happens. Okay, all right, let us say this for example. Let us say, for example, your parents, they give you an allowance monthly. Okay, so your parents give you an allowance monthly. So then if your parents give you an allowance monthly, and then you go to school for 5 years, then from that we can be able to calculate how many times did you receive your monthly allowance during that 5 years. Okay, so that is something about these adverbs which tells us exactly how often something happens. From there, we can really be able to calculate how often something happens, or what are the chances of that thing to happen. Are we all together? Yes. So that is how it works. Okay, and let me do another example weekly. Let us say there is a show you love on TV, and then that show is broadcast on TV weekly. So then you can be able to calculate how many episodes of that show you can see in the next 26 weeks. How many? 26. Yes. So that is one thing very interesting about the adverbs of frequency. You know, you can really be able to calculate how often something happens, and from that you can be able to really see if someone is really lying to you, if someone is, you know, trying to make a fool out of you. Yes, because okay, yeah, I mean, if you can understand these things, then you can be able to understand how often things happen. And yeah, you know, you really can understand this. You really can, and this can really help you to not be a confused person, to help you to not be deceived, to not fall into traps, to not, you know, make any rash decisions that which you will regret after deciding at the end. So these ones, they're usually written at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. Okay, that doesn't matter as long as you can be able to identify them. Then we have adverbs of frequency, indefinite frequency. So these adverbs of frequency, they give us an idea about frequency or how often something happens, but they don't tell us exactly how often. So with these ones, that is when you are really just approximating. You know, you are sure, okay, you know something happens this often, but then you really are not sure. You know, you really can't tell exactly. You really cannot express it as a number to say that this event happens at this times of a number in this given period. Okay, so this one will be so interesting that we had to use a diagram for it. So here they are, the examples of adverbs of indefinite frequency. So if you look at these examples of adverbs of indefinite frequency, okay, so let us start from 0 to 100. So let us start from the bottom, start from the bottom, start from the bottom, start from the bottom. So if you start from the bottom, we know that the adverb of frequency, the adverb never, what does it mean? It means 0% chances. So never, it means that whatever it is, it will never happen. It means that it means that there will never be a time when it happens. Okay, so if I say, for example, I will never give you money, so then it stays like that. Okay, Even if I could be a billionaire in dollars, I will never give you money. So then it means that there's nothing which can happen which can change that possibility. There's nothing which can happen which can make me to give you money. Okay, so that is what never means. So never, it means that the chances of whatever happening is zero. It means never will it happen. Even if it happens that tomorrow they declare it a day of miracles, that which we said never, it will never happen. Then as we go up, somewhere between, okay, then as we go up, we have sometimes. So sometimes is like 50% of the time. Okay, sometimes like 50% of the time. If let us say that yes, sometimes is 50% of the time. Okay, so yes, sometimes, sometimes I sleep at 11, sometimes I sleep at 12, so it is something like this. So that it means that in 2 days, I can sleep at 11 on one day and I can sleep at 12 on the other day. So that's what sometimes really mean. And somewhere between 0% and 50%, we have hardly ever. Hardly ever is nearly never. It's nearly 0% chance, but there is that little chance of it happening. Okay. And then as we go up a bit, we have seldom. So hardly ever could be about 10% of the chance. Then 20% of the chance could be seldom. Okay, or I seldom do this. It means that you can, like 20% of the time, that thing can be done. Then we have rarely or infrequently. So that means that something happens, but you can never really tell how often it happens. So that is more or less 30%. Okay. The next one is occasionally. Occasionally is almost 50%, but not quite. Okay, so it's something which is almost guaranteed to sometimes happen, but not quite. Then, okay, we are done with sometimes. Then we have often. Often is something which doesn't happen sometimes. It happens more than sometimes, okay? For example, you can say, when I watch TV, I eat often. So then that means that most of the time when you watch TV, you'll be eating something. Maybe you're eating your lunch or your breakfast, or you are snacking on something. Frequently or regularly, that's about, let us say, something like 75%. So it means that this is something that which you can really count on. So if someone says, I go to the grocery shop regularly, then chances are that you can expect to see that person with some shopping bags at least once a week, because they go there regularly. Then usually or normally, this is something which is accepted to happen. So that is like 90% of the time that I usually watch TV. So it means that in any given day, there will be a chance where you will catch me watch TV. I normally, you can say, I normally check my emails in the morning. So that means that in a normal day, in a day that which is like every other day, this is something that which you will see, you will find to be happening. And then at last we have always and constantly. So this is 100%. So always it means 100%. It means that thing, it happens all the time. That is how often it happens. Okay, you can say, when I'm awake, I always blink. That's true. That is true. For as long as I am awake, then I blink my eyes. I mm, I blink my eyes. You can say, my heart is always beating. That's true. For as long as you are alive, your heart will continue to beat and pump blood. Okay. Constantly is also the same. Is 100%. You can think of it in this context in natural science. You know that in natural science there are some equations where we have one thing which we call a constant. And one thing about the constant is that the value of a constant never changes. Let us say, for example, we have an equation, and in that equation we have a. They say that a is a constant and a is equals to 2. Then it means that every time you do calculations with that formula, then a will always be 2. So it is a constant. So even here, if something happens constantly, it means that it's 100%. That there is never a time, there's never a time when that thing doesn't happen. Okay, it's constant, it happens constantly. So that is something we always need to remember, that always and constantly is 100%, which means all the time. Okay, so you see, all these are adverbs of frequency. The differences is that there are adverbs of frequency which tells us exactly how often something happens, and there are other adverbs of frequency which just tell us, which just approximates to us, they estimate to us how often something happens. We are not really sure, because this week this this week that thing can happen 3 times, next week 2 times, the other week no, like none at all, the fourth week 5 times no. So like you never know, you never know how often it happens. Okay, so that is the adverbs of frequency for us. Any question on this? Yes, so this is the end of our lesson. Is there any question on the adverbs of, remember we did the adverbs? Any question on this before we close the lesson? Yes, so this is what today's lesson has been all about. Okay, so let us recap all the adverbs that which we have dealt with in the past 2 days. Remember, we said that there are 6 types of adverbs. It is 1, the adverbs of place, which show us where something happens. 2, the adverbs of frequency, which tells us how often something happens. 3, the adverbs of manner, which tells us the manner or how something happens. 4, the adverbs of degree, which tells us the extent at which something happens. Number 5, the adverbs of time, which tells us about when or how long something happens. And then you have the adverbs of reason, which tells us why something happens. So that is the end of our lesson. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. So remember that next week from Monday it will be our assessment week. Everything that we have done so far, we will be you will be assessed on it. Thank you so much. It has been a very wonderful journey. I hope I really have helped you to grasp concepts, to understand, and to be able to use that which you have been learning for the past few weeks. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a Friday. May you have a very wonderful one. Also have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy it. Remember to stay home, to stay safe. Regularly wash your hands with soap and water. Sanitize your hands. If you go somewhere, please wear your mask and remember social distancing. So yes, from all of us here at STEM Digital School, we say goodbye. We love you. Take care. See you tomorrow. See you on Monday. Yes, have a wonderful weekend. Bye bye.